welcome to this session. My name is Michel Baumann and I'm the Partner Technical Lead for Microsoft Teams Rooms in EMEA. So you've probably followed a bunch of sessions and now it's ready to take you to the next step. You want to actually give demos to your customers. Now in this new world of hybrid work, it's not always going to be possible to go on site or ensure that a customer comes to your location to give a proper demo. So what we've created for you is an advanced demo using tools such as OBS and NDI to give the ultimate Microsoft Teams Rooms demo. For this, we're not going to stay in this room, but we're going to move all the way to Canada for my guy Denzel Fernandez to take you on this journey. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Denzel Fernandez and I'm a Teams Technical Specialist. Today, I'm going to show you how you can present Teams Rooms virtually. Now, when we talk about this virtual experience, what do I mean by that? Well, we have the in-person experience and you also have a PowerPoint experience where we can share and show the functionality of Teams Rooms. What if you can level that up and make it much more immersive for the customer? Let me show you how. Here's an example of a few scenes that I've created that I can share with the customer. I'll pick on one for today's demonstration. As you can see, it appears that I'm sitting inside a meeting room equipped with a Microsoft Teams Room system. It's running in dual display. I have my touch controller here waiting and providing the easy one-touch join. I even have my PC, so I could show you later how you could set this up. Now, if needed, you can also bring in your phone and you could show how other features work with the phone as well, like proximity join and room control. Okay, so how do we set this up and how do we get this going? So let's take it back here to the beginning and talk about the setup and prerequisites that you need to get this going. So, create a little diagram to illustrate the connectivity and components, hardware, software required for you. If I can get your attention to the Teams Room site first. Now, when it comes to doing this demonstration, you have two options of Teams Rooms. You have the Windows and you also have the Android as well. With the Windows version, you can wirelessly or wired broadcast the displays from the touch controller and the front of room display. With an MTR OA or Android, what you can do is you could split that connection in which you could output back one to the TV and take one back into the PC using a USB capture card. Now, the other components that's required in this case is a PC. Now, the PC runs software. The software is called OBS Studio. If you don't know what OBS Studio is, it's a software for live streaming and recording. I'm using it right now to record this video as well. The software is able to connect to sources that you add in there. For example, you could have added the Android source, which is coming through the USB connection. You can also add the NDI source, which is traveling over your network. Now, additionally, on your PC, you may consider a dedicated graphics processor. This improves the performance in encoding and displaying this so that customers can see this very fluid. Now, some productivity benefits on your PC with an external display would allow you to look at OBS in one screen and have your Teams meeting on the other screen. So when you do share and show the customer, you could share the desktop or the OBS projector window that the customer could see what it looks like as well. Now, to switch in between scenes, you can also add a Stream Deck. And a Stream Deck is a software that allows you to remotely control OBS. Okay, so now that we have looked at the software, let's take a look and see some of the websites that you will need to go download these tools. The first one is NDI. NDI tools will be required and installed both on your PC and also on the Windows based Teams Room system. To download NDI, you visit ndi.tv and you click the downloads button. When you're there, you will be required to set up and provide an email address because the download is provided through a link in email. I'll give you an example of here what it looks like when I click that. You fill out your registration, you click You're Not a Robot, and then an email gets sent out to you. When installing NDI tools, you will install the whole suite in the default location, both on your PC and on your Windows-based Teams Room system. The next tool that you'll need to install is the Open Broadcast Software, or OBS Studio. OBS Studio is only installed on your PC. In addition to OBS installation, you'll have to also add in a plugin called the OBS NDI Source plugin. This integrates the NDI sources into OBS. The download link here takes you to a website that allows you to have a setup or an installer that allows you to easily install this in the right directories you need. Okay. Setting up your Teams rooms is easy on Windows. Before we begin, let me explain that you will need to log in as administrator, install NDI tools, also install the Microsoft Teams Rooms package. Now, with NDI tools, not only can you broadcast the display from the meeting room device, but you can also take control of the keyboard and mouse as well using NDI Studio Monitor from your PC. I'm going to get started with switching and installing and configuring the Microsoft Teams Rooms on the administrator account. So I would click on More, I would click on Settings, I would accept this app to make changes, and of course at the bottom left you can click on Windows Settings. Having clicked that, you will be back at a Control-Alt-Delete screen, which will allow you to log in as an admin. Once you've logged in as an admin, open up a browser and visit the following URL: aka.ms/magicmtr. Having entered that in, takes you directly to the install for the Skype Room system or the Microsoft Teams Room system. So go ahead and install and configure Teams Rooms just like it was previously under the administrative account. Now, once you have installed and configured Teams Rooms under the administrative account, and you also have NDI tools, what you will do next is you will launch the screen capture program that comes with the NDI. So let's click on screen capture on the NDI. Now, I already have this application running. It's actually in my system tray. So as you can see at the bottom, I have the NDI running. Now with NDI, I will say that there's a cool feature that allows you to take keyboard, video, mouse control. So after it's running and it's in your system tray, go ahead and click on Enable KVM Control. What this allows us to do from our own PC, I'll open it up here, but from our own PC, we can control this. So Studio Monitor is the application that allows you to view NDI broadcasts on your network. So we can click that, we can select the device, and when we select that, we will get control for that device. Now I have it running here as well. So let me bring this up on the left here so you could see that the screen is being broadcasted over NDI. And switching to KVM, I'm able to take control right from the NDI studio monitor. That's all we need to be doing for the MTR. After you have installed the Skype Room system, your NDI started, you've enabled KVM, you should be back at the home screen for the touch panel and so forth. So from here, we're going to be now moving into the Windows PC setup on how you can get that feed, put it inside into OBS so that you can create that immersive look and feel. So we're back here now on my Windows PC. Before we look at OBS, let's take a look at some of the prerequisites that we need installed. On my PC, I have installed NDI tools. This comes with a suite of tools. Accept all defaults during installation because we will be requiring the NDI Studio Monitor, which allows us to use the keyboard video mouse control that is on our Teams rooms that is running on Windows. So now we've installed NDI tools. The next step would be to install OBS. Go ahead and download and install the Windows version. Once you've completed that, accept all defaults. Don't start the application just yet. The reason for that is we want to install the NewTek NDI plugin. This plugin talks to NDI and lets us add those sources like the displays from our Microsoft Teams room so that we could show them in our scenes. After you have clicked the Go to Download link, you will visit a page. On this page, you will find many links to install this plugin. Use the Windows link that appears at the bottom. Use the installer. The installer is an easy way to ensure that these files are put in the correct directory installation of OBS. Before we launch OBS, we will also need some images so that we can build our scenes. One way, you could use any image that you might already own. But one way to get started if you don't have any is to just use the Bing search engine and search for Get Started with Teams Rooms on Androids. This will take you to a Microsoft support page. On this support page, you will find lots of images that you could use in OBS. For today's demonstration, I will just use the room image itself. To open up this image or save it to your computer, there's a couple of ways. First, let me open up this image in a new tab. Right-click, and you could say Open in a new tab. Once you've done that, you will have the image available for you to save. I'm going to save this image to a convenient location on my desktop. I will need this image so I can drag and drop it later inside of OBS. So you can right-click, you can click on Save Image As and give it a meaningful name so that you can easily find it inside of OBS as well. I'll now switch over to OBS. When you first launch OBS, you will be presented with an auto configuration wizard. I would optimize this to use for a virtual camera. Clicking that will present you with the next dialog, which shows you what the quality would be. Most importantly about this setting is that it sets the canvas size to 1920 by 1080, which is the optimal resolution for Teams video and for screen sharing. Click Apply Settings and that will get you started. The next few checks we can do inside OBS is to ensure that those NDI plugins are available for us to add as sources. So before we drag and drop the image, let's take a look at a quick check and see if OBS can find the plugin. Underneath your sources, you will find a plus symbol. Inside the plus symbol, there will be an NDI source. This is a clear indication that an NDI source can be added to your scenes as sources. In addition, you can also check on Tools, which also shows you the NDI output settings. This is yet another indication that OBS has been installed successfully with the NDI plugin. Now that we are at this good spot, we're now ready to start building our scenes. By default, there are no sources installed in OBS. There's only one scene. We're going to start by dragging and dropping an image inside OBS. To do this, I'm going to open up a file explorer and drag the image from where I've saved it. When you drag and drop an image, you preserve the same file name, which is an added benefit. If you create the image manually by selecting it, you would have to create the image, type a name, browse to the source, which is also another way to add images. I like the drag and drop. It's very simple and easy to use. As I've dropped the image, it takes on its default size. I would like to get this image to span across the entire canvas. I could hold and drag the corner edges to resize. I could also, after selecting the image with the red border around it, hit Control F on my keyboard, and this takes this image edge to edge. Our next steps would be to add the NDI sources to overlay on top of the touch panel and the front of room display. To add an NDI source, you can click the plus button in Sources. You can also right-click within Sources, click on the Add, and select from here NDI Sources. I'm going to go with the default name that appears right there. I'm going to click on OK. When I get the open dialog for adding NDI sources, I'm presented with a drop-down for the source's name. You can select one source from here. So in this case, I need to select source 1, which is going to bring up the touch console, if not the front of room display that I want to overlay. It takes a moment for the source to appear as it's the first time being added to the scene. Once the source appears, you'll be able to proceed to the next steps, which is resizing this object. I'm going to just keep this one down here. I'm going to add a second source for the front of room display. Click Add, selecting the NDI source yet again. On the pop-up, I'm going to accept the default, click OK. I'm going to click the drop down here, and I'm going to select the, well, I have a dual screen, so in this case, I'm showing you for a single. You'll select the second one here and click OK. You may have additional sources such as your phone if you are also broadcasting from your phone. As the second source shows up, you will see it on the screen, and you can resize this as well. First, let me caution you that this is an ultra-wide view of the front room, so plan accordingly. Most likely, you will have 16:9, which is a standard ratio for televisions, so this would fit edge to edge for yourself. I'm going to resize this by holding the dots that appear in the corners and in the middle of each vertex. Now, as you resize this, into the appropriate places, you will notice that the touch console is becoming very illegible to the screen. This makes it hard for the viewer to address. I'm going to address this in just a moment. So now that I have placed the image inside of the placeholders, what I want to do next is plan a scene so that I'm able to zoom into the touch panel and clearly share and show the functionality on the touch console. To do that, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to group all these objects together, making it easier to move the entire canvas at one time. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these sources. I'm going to right click and select the group option. So here you can group selected items. This creates a group. What this does inside OBS is it allows me to move the entire group and all its items together, making it easier for the next step. So in the next step, what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in. Before I do that, I'm going to take a moment here to right click, rename this scene. You can right click and rename the scene based on what you're showing. So in this case, I'm going to call this the meeting room. Perfect. Now that I have that, a simple way to create another scene is to duplicate the existing scene. This allows you to bring all the contents back into the next scene. So to do that, I would right click and I would click on duplicate. When you click on duplicate, you get a pop-up which tells you to add a scene. This is an opportunity to enter a new name. I'm going to call this Touch Zoom. In my new scene, I'm going to select the entire group. This time, I'm going to pick one of the corners of the entire group and resize it. I'm pulling it lower and higher from the spots, and this allows me to create a zoom view of the touch panel. What I'm doing here is trying to zoom this so that you can see the top and bottom borders of the touch panel, which would make it very legible for your participants to see. As you can see now, I have the touch console there. I'll make one more adjustment to make it really big. Center it to the scene so that you can see that. Now you can notice in here that the image might not be perfect, so this is an opportunity to select that source and resize that object. Because the source is grouped and you are making this change here, you're also making this change in other scenes that use the same group. And this is one of the advantages of grouping the scene, grouping those selected sources. Okay, so I'm fine with this view. What I'm going to do next is create another scene, and this scene is going to zoom into the front of display. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to duplicate, and this time I'm going to call this the front of display. Let's call this the front of room. Okay, so now I have a new duplicate source. And then same thing I will do is select the group and this time resize this so that the entire view of the monitor comes into play. Perfect. I could do a little bit more just to get it closer to the edges, a little bit of a centering so it looks better. And that's it for here. So now we have three scenes that we can switch from. We could select the meeting room. We could select the touch console. And we could also select the front of room display. Now, before we get into step 5, there's just a few tests you want to do in here. So the first thing you want to test is your NDI monitor. A while back, we installed NDI tools on our Windows PC. One of the tools that we need to use so that we can remotely control the touch panel is the NDI Studio Monitor. The NDI Studio Monitor is a tool that allows you to view all the broadcasts on your network. I have this open already and running on the system. It allows you to select from various sources that are on your network. In this case, I've selected the meeting room device and I've selected the display which is displaying the touch console. That's already been selected. In addition, I have the KVM option. If I click on that, that allows me to take control As you can see, I put my mouse over the join button. I'm able to click on various aspects of the system. I'm going to see what this looks like inside of OBS just to show our audience can see that interaction as well. You won't see the mouse, but you will see me hover over various items. So here's me clicking more, click on escape, put my mouse over the join button so it lights up purple so you can see that. Perfect. So we're looking good with our OBS, we're looking good with our NDI controls. We're about to get into our Teams meetings. Before we go there, there's one thing you need to do in OBS, which is to switch on the virtual camera that becomes available with the system. So the virtual camera, think of it just like a camera plugged into your computer. It's another device of a video that you can choose from. If you look inside OBS, you will find controls. One of the controls outside of streaming and recording is to start the virtual camera. If you select the start virtual camera, what you are doing now is you are broadcasting this scene or whatever scene is selected into the virtual camera. Perfect. Let's just reset this here and go back to the next step, on which we will learn how we can take advantage in a Teams meeting and how we could show this scene to our customers. All right, we're back here and we're about to start or join our Teams meeting. I'm waiting at this screen so that I can show you one difference that you will make in this screen when it comes to starting your meeting. The first thing you'll notice is that you have the camera options or in your device settings. So you can toggle this while you have a meeting, but you can also do this before. So in this case, I'm doing it before I join. And what I want to bring your attention to is that once you've installed OBS and started the virtual camera, what you will notice is you have additional cameras. The camera that you want to select is the OBS virtual camera. Now that you've selected the OBS virtual camera, if you switch on OBS, what you will notice is that you are seeing the scenes from OBS. So I'm going to go ahead, click join, and get started with the meeting. So in this meeting, my camera looks like a Teams room system. Now we have OBS running, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to switch scenes and show you what this looks like from a Teams meeting. So to do this, I'm going to just move this window aside, select the front of room display, which is the scene we're on. I'm going to select touch, and I'll kind of come back here, and you can see that the video has now updated to the touch panel. And of course, I'm going to select meeting room and that the meeting now shows the meeting room. So this is how the virtual camera is picking up every scene that you have selected. I'm going to switch back to the touch console. In the touch console, as you can see here, I'm going to actually interact with the KVM and I'm going to click on join. So as you can see, I'm controlling this through the touch screen. Now, in this video, it does look mirrored, and that's because of the self view of Teams. I believe in the future you can toggle this video to be reversed, but do know that your participants are seeing the correct orientation of the screen. Now, if I move this back here again, I can switch the scene to the meeting room. And what you could see is the touch console at the bottom showing as well. Of course, my front of room display is not on. To do that, what I'm going to do, because I have a dual meeting room system, I'm going to select a few options in here. So I'm going to swap screens. And once I've done that, I'm just going to go here and switch this to the full scene. So now this looks like I'm in my conference room. And you can see the front of room display, and there's the touch panel at the bottom. Okay, now having done that, go back to the Touch Console. I'm going to click End on here. This would end the meeting that is being demonstrated running on the Teams room. Perfect. So that was one way I could do it. I'm still inside my Teams meeting, so I wanted to share and give you 2 tips on how you could present this. Yes, you can present this using your video, but the challenge becomes is if there are multiple participants in a Teams meeting with your video turned on, how do you make sure that this video is the largest? So don't be afraid to tell your customer that in the next 10 minutes of your demonstration that you would like them to turn off their cameras so that they can get maximum fidelity with the video broadcast of the system. Also, do use the spotlight feature. You can spotlight for everyone in the Teams meeting. That's also another option as well. Now, there is still one more option as well. So we talked about using your video. Another option that you could use is screen sharing. Yes, you can screen share OBS. Now, before you do this, let me advise there's one step that you need to do inside OBS before screen sharing. Inside OBS, you would have to click in the, you would have to take the output that you see here, and you would have to create a full screen or windowed projector. So to right click that area in the gray space, and you will see in here that you have a full screen and a windowed projector. Now, just to open up the window projector to show you what that looks like. So here you go, you have a windowed projector that's available. Now, in Microsoft Teams, it's a matter of selecting this window in your screen share. So that's one option of screen sharing as well. Now, if you have multiple displays, there's a simpler option that I personally use. Another option would be to right-click full screen and send this output to another monitor. So I'm going to send it to the same monitor that we're doing this demonstration with. So now you see a full screen output. You could now share the entire screen in your Teams meeting of this monitor. This way you know what is on that screen is what they see. So that's also another option in there as well. Once the projector is open, you can also close the projector by right-clicking and clicking close as well. That's it. You've now successfully seen how you could do this. All that would be left is to switch the scenes 1, 2, 3, and back to 1. And that way you can build a story as you walk the customer through the features and functionality of the Microsoft Teams room. All right, let's get this wrapped up. Congratulations, you've reached the end of this video. You can now demonstrate Microsoft Teams virtually, giving your customers an immersive experience of this software. Don't be afraid to add more creativity, adding new background images of meeting rooms, adding additional NDI sources like a second display, also bringing in your mobile device as well. My name is Denzel Fernandez, and thank you for joining me on this journey. See you again next time.